Greetings, everyone. How the hell are you? The date today is April the 24th, 2019. It is Wednesday, April the 24th, 2019. I was out running earlier this afternoon, and I gotta tell you, it was balmy out there. Not, hot or anything like that, but certainly spring has arrived here in the here in Toronto, here in the GTA, the Greater Toronto area. God, don't you hate when you all that crap all over my glasses? Maybe I'll go glassesless for a little bit. We'll see how it goes. Sorry for the delay. My apologies. I was on the telephone with my agent, and there was a couple of things we were discussing, so hey, it happens. But we are ready to go. So this is a live AMA. You guys have questions. I might have some answers to your questions, depending on how many people we get into the chat room tonight. Will all depend on how many I can answer, of course. It is never personal, as I always say. If I don't get to your question, it's not personal unless you make it personal somehow. I have no idea. But it's never personal because there's always a ton of questions going by. And, I like to be thorough with my answers because you guys deserve that. When you ask a question, you deserve to have it answered to the best of my abilities. So, without further ado, let's go to the chat room and see what is going on. Anthony Alcaraz says, "Hey Dave, Cobra Kai Season 2, Episode 1. Thoughts?" I don't know, haven't fucking watched it. I am not a Cobra. It's so funny how people just assume that when things are big in the pop culture, everybody must have seen it. What did you think? You must have watched it. No, I actually haven't seen it. However, I will be doing my best to brush up on Cobra Kai because I haven't seen Season 1. I really don't care about it, really. It's really not my area of interest, even though I did grow up with the Karate Kid films. But I am going to brush up on it as best as I can because Tony and I are going to be talking about Season 2 Cobra Kai this Sunday night on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. And he's a big Cobra Kai fan, so he'll be taking the reins on that episode, and I'll just be sort of, moving along at my own pace and trying to contribute where I can, because obviously there was a lot to catch up on, and it's I'm gonna do the best that I possibly can. So to answer your question, I haven't seen it. Let's see here. Perp Minded says Endgame tomorrow, but Attack on Titan comes back Sunday. I have no idea what Attack on Titan means, or is referring to. Endgame tomorrow? Yes. Will I be seeing it in the theater? No, I won't, because I don't care about it. And I know that for a lot of you, that is mind-boggling. It's just, how can Dave possibly not go and see Endgame? He must hate the movies. No, I don't hate the movies, folks. It's like this. Each and every one of us have grown up with things that we really like. Have gotten emotionally invested in certain things that we really, really like. And comic book movies and superheroes is just not something that I ever really gave a shit about. I gave a shit about your staples, right? Like your Batman, your Superman, your Spider-Man, but who didn't, right? We all love Batman. We all love Superman. I mean, they are sort of your staples of the superhero genre. But when it comes to the bigger, broader sort of, nerd culture fandom, I just never really got into it. So I catch one when I catch them. You know what I mean? Like I saw the Avengers, the very first Avengers, 2 years after it was released. And then I just saw the Deadpool films, and I think they're funny. But I'm not rushing out. You see, for some people, this is your Star Wars, right? And you could make an argument right now, absolutely you could, that Marvel is doing it way better than Star Wars is. So for a lot of you, what you're about to experience this weekend is what I was feeling when I was going into The Force Awakens 4 years ago. Now, for a lot of you, you experience them both, right? Because you're just as emotionally invested and going crazy over Marvel, and you're just as invested going crazy over Star Wars. And then for some of you, it's either or. For me, my Avengers, oh, fuck it, I'm getting really excited, will be the rise of Skywalker. That doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. And that doesn't mean the hype is going to be anywhere near what the hype is for Endgame. I mean, I'm certainly aware of I can see it, but it's just not a series. It's not a, I'm just not emotionally invested into the films. So I'm not saying the movies suck. I'm just saying that I'm not emotionally invested in the film. Like, I could say to you, would you guys be going crazy over an Indiana Jones movie? And you'd probably be like, but I'd be like, but you're not really emotionally invested into it, right? You know what I mean? There's some series and some, IPs and properties that you just don't really care about. You know what I mean? And this happens to be one for me. Let's see here. But I will say this. I am really excited for all of you who are that excited, because I know what that's like. Just because I'm not particularly excited about Endgame, I can live vicariously through you guys, and it makes me smile because I'm watching you guys and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, we've all been there, right? It's cool stuff. I hope you guys enjoy the movie, hands down. Adam Carl Green says, Dave, why don't we see slow-burning mystery thrillers like What Lies Beneath anymore? P.S. Do you like that film? Yes, I really like that movie. Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. The year 2000 it came out. I believe it grossed about 155 million at the box office. And I saw that movie in the movie theater. I was 21 when it came out. Big Harrison Ford fan, as you guys know. One of my favorite, well, actually my favorite actor of all time. So, yeah. Awesome stuff. Let's see here. The Badass Ninja says, totally agree, Dave. The only genres films that I love is horror and comedy. Well, I like quite a few. I like superhero movies. I just never got invested emotionally to the point where, some people are losing their minds. That's just me. There was a super chat that came in. Thank you, Neil Rookie, is that it? Rook, am I saying that right? Anyways, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate it. What are 5 countries you would like to visit? Well, I would like to visit England, actually, because I am half British. My mother was born in England. She's been dead for 8 years now, but she came to Canada in 1956 when she was 12. So I really am half British, like literally my mother and her parents and are full-on Brits. So, I would like to go. I have not been. Certainly Europe, whether it's, France, England, Ireland, Scotland, like that area, I think would be kind of cool. I had no real desire to see, well, I can't say, I had no real conscious desire really to see the pyramids, but my girlfriend would love to visit Egypt, and she's got me sort of thinking more about that and what that would be like. Like, that would be really cool to see the pyramid. There are thousands of you. Like, that would be really cool. Oh, and Italy too, because I actually have an uncle. My mother's brother lives in Italy. I know, I haven't been, but that would be really cool. And he can speak 4 languages, so he'd be the perfect tour guide. Though he's, like 75 or however old he is, or 3 or whatever he is. He's up there now, so, if I'm going to go, I better do it soon. So that's kind of cool. And then there's certain places in the U.S. as well that I would like to visit that I haven't been to, certain states. I'd love to go to Fiji. I think that would be really cool. I'd love to go to Hawaii. I know Hawaii is considered part of the U.S., but you fucking greedy bastards, you can't take everything! You tried to take us, for God's sakes, and we pushed you back. We said, but Hawaii would be cool, even though, it's, like I said, it's part of the U.S. Yeah, there's a lot of different... I think Japan would be really cool. I would go to Japan. I think that would be awesome. Go to Tokyo. Oh my God! Be insane. Thanks for the question. Let's see here. Let me see. Total Clips 518 says, thoughts on a Halloween remake featuring the cast of Little People Big World. Well, I think why not? Why the hell not? Let's do it. Let's do it. Daniel Hammond says, hey Dave, I haven't and don't care to see Endgame either. Yeah, you know what? It's and because people are so emotionally invested and it's become the Star Wars of this generation, so to speak. 22 films. I mean, I certainly understand the hype. I mean, you don't live in this world and work in the entertainment industry and not get it. But yeah, I just don't like. I'll see it eventually, but it'll probably be like a Sunday afternoon on Netflix or something. You know what I mean? It's just, because I've only seen, not that you have to, but out of the 22 films, maybe I've seen like, I don't know, 3 of them. 4 of them. Like I got a lot of catching up to do if I want to get seriously invested. And I just don't have the care to do that. Let's see here. It's pronounced Rook. Oh, okay. Rook. Movie Chat and More says, hey Dave, are you a fan of 6 Days, 7 Nights with Ford? Yes, I saw that movie in the theater as well, 1998. That came out in 1998. Anne Heche was in that movie. I went to the theater to see that with my brother Neil and my mother, actually, at that time. That was a lot of fun. Let's see here. Mark Williams says, very excited for Godzilla King of the Monsters. I saw an IMAX preview and it looks great. Is that the one you're checking out? In theaters, Mr. At the end of the day? That's right. At the end of the day, Mark. Yes, I am definitely going to go to the theater to see Godzilla. Absolutely. I'm a big Godzilla fan. I've been a fan since I was a little boy. In the early 80s, growing up, I would watch the old 70s Japanese Godzilla movies in the 60s. My favorite Godzilla movie still to this day is Godzilla 1985. My father took me to see that movie. That's the American version with Raymond Burr of the 1984 Godzilla, which in itself is the sequel to the 1954 original. But of course, there was an Americanized version of that 54 original, which was the 1956 Americanized version, which had Raymond Burr in it. And it's a whole fucking complicated thing. But the 1985 Americanized version is my favorite Godzilla movie to this day. I wasn't a big fan of the 2014 film. Loved Godzilla, but I think Gareth Edwards just fucking dropped the ball when it came to having characters I could actually give a shit about. But I'm really looking forward, because this looks like it's just balls to the wall nonsense. I mean, in terms of just wild, crazy shit, which is just what we want in a Godzilla movie. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it. We'll see it in the movie theater. Let's see here. Luke Myers 78 says, one king to rule them all. Hashtag Godzilla. That's right. I am team Godzilla, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. Lou H says, have you seen Us? No, I haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it. You're like, how could you not see it yet? I just don't get it, Dave. It's just mind-boggling me. Well, I'll see it when I get around to it. I love you guys. George Maitland says, you look like Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen. I look like Michael Sheen. I don't know who Michael Sheen is. James Bach says, at Mark Williams, yeah, that looks like a film to get hyped for sure. Frank Riker says, Team King Kong Bundy all the way. King Kong Bundy. Hey, yeah, he died just not too long ago, all right? A lot of them dropping off pretty early in life. Let's see here. Oliver Mercer says, hey Dave, for when Terminator 2 3D Battle Cross Time was at Universal Studios. Oh yes, I do remember that. Did you ever get to experience it any time? Yes. If so, what did you think about it, as it's a small continuation of T2? Well, I can't really quite remember the story. I haven't been to Florida, to be honest with you, in almost 25 years. It's been 23 years since I've been to Florida. And the last time I went was actually with my buddy Bruce when we were teenagers. We went with my mother and my older sister, and we did the whole Orlando thing. Went to Disney World, went to Universal, all that kind of jazz. And certainly it was there at that time. That was a time when it was Universal Studios was in its golden age in terms of rides, right? You had the animatronic King Kong ride and the Jaws ride and the Back to the Future ride and the E.T. Like, they don't fucking have ride. Like, everything now is, it's cool shit. I don't know. Like, I went on the King Kong ride at Universal in Hollywood 4 years ago when I was there for the Voice Arts Awards. And my girlfriend and I just spent the day at Universal, and we went on the King Kong ride, and it was Peter Jackson's King Kong, right? You know, the 3D and the screens. And it's a cool ride. Like, it is absolutely pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. But I don't know. There's just something missing, that tangibleness quality where you didn't have to put glasses on and you didn't have to, the whole setup, you didn't just go on this back tour lot where you just suddenly, oh, now we're going into this tunnel. Here's the King Kong, right? Like everything, like you were in line and the lineup was designed to look like a subway station or well, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like everything was like the lineups and the details into the sets and all that kind of stuff. Like everything, you felt like you were in the movie before you even got on the ride. So I miss that kind of attention to detail. And then it's not like I had to put any glasses on. I didn't have to do anything. I was just sitting there, on the tram, Kong. Of course, he's fake, but I mean, it's cool shit. And he looks cool, right? And he's grabbing the tram and there's real fire and you could feel the heat. It's one thing you don't get from the screens and the shit. You don't feel the heat, and anyway, so I miss all that old shit, but it is the future, isn't it? But I do remember the ride you're talking about, but I remember it being really cool, but I don't remember the story or anything because it's been so long. Great question. Super chat from the Crystal Laker. Thank you, the Crystal Laker. Says, will ever see a Friday 13th film again once the lawsuit is over? Yes. Yeah. I don't know when the lawsuit's going to finally stop. You will see a Friday the 13th movie again, but I have no confidence that they will do it. Well, I can't say that. I can't say I have no confidence that they'll do it right. I just don't have... I have very little confidence that they're going to do it right. And because I just think there is a very... Well, if you want to know what I think they should do, go and watch, I think it's episode... It might be the first episode, actually. It's either the first... No, I think it's the third episode? The second or third episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, where Tony and I talk about what we think they should do for a Friday the 13th reboot. And I think there's more to it than just bringing Jason back. Yes, the premise is simple, and you think, well, God, you just put a bunch of people in a lake and you got to come. But they did that in 2009, and although it initially was quite successful at the box office opening weekend, it dropped considerably, and nobody gave a fuck about it after that. The reason why they didn't make another one to the 2009 film was because it wasn't a huge success. It wasn't a complete failure, but it wasn't anything to really get excited about. So I just think it's not just about Jason, and we've seen that. And if that's what you're going to do, then expect one movie, unless they decide to somehow bring back and play the nostalgia train and bring back Feldman and bring back, they can do a alternate Friday the 13th 5, if you know what I mean. They could always do that. But I don't fucking know. Who the fuck knows? Iron Claw 30 says, Dave, how is the weather by you? Oh, it's great. It was great today. It was about 15 degrees Celsius, which is not extraordinarily warm, but I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. What is that in Fahrenheit? Maybe 50, something like that. So it was cool, but it was spring is in the air. You could hear the birds. People were out kind of walking on the paths and things like that. It was nice. Something like that, I think. Maybe a bit higher than that, actually. It might be higher than that. Let's see here. Megatron Trap says a grizzly bear versus a gorilla. Who do you think would win? That's tough. I want to lean on it. It depends on the size of the grizzly. If it's one of the Kodiak bears, like that could be tough. That could be tough. But a gorilla is more agile than a bear. So I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question. Be a good fucking brawl. Depends on the size of the grizzly. Some grizzlies are, and it depends, is it male or female, right? Let's see here. Let me go back. Let's see what we got. Christopher Wynn says, how can Myers be classified as evil if he has a chemical imbalance in the brain? Who says he has a chemical imbalance in the brain? His free will is limited. Thoughts? Well, I mean, I don't understand how. I don't know where you're getting the chemical. I assume that that's an assumption based on, well, if he's not literally supernatural, then there must be something psychologically wrong with him, and how can he be considered evil? Well, I think this is what I say to people. People tend to take things very literally, and again, people hate hearing me say this, but the fact of the matter is it's extraordinarily difficult to compare the original Halloween to anything that came after it. Even though we can do it, it's extraordinarily difficult to do because the original Halloween was supposed to be a one-off. That's not my opinion, that's a fact. It was supposed to be a one-and-done deal. Okay, it was that Hitchcockian ghost story Twilight Zone thing that nobody cared, that it was just that was it. It was a one-and-done deal. And when you watch it today, and you watch old school episodes of The Twilight Zone or Alfred Hitchcock Presents or The Outer Limits or, whatever it is, it does feel like a 90-minute Twilight Zone episode. Do you know what I mean? So even the original Child's Play kind of feels like that a bit. So you have to keep in mind that when Dr. Loomis was talking about Michael Myers being evil, I watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, not seeing the wall, staring at the wall. You were never supposed to know anything more than that. So it was never, there was never a it was just, that's what, I don't believe Loomis, if you want to take it at face value, he wasn't literally saying that like, it's like people say, well, all he did for 15 years was sit in a room and stare at the wall. It's like, no, that's not what he means. It's a figure of speech, right? Loomis is using a bit of hyperbole to get the point across to the sheriff of how serious the situation is. Obviously, he didn't literally for 15 years just sit there like this. He shat, he peed, he ate, he probably got up and walked over to the room and sat on the bed. It's a figure of speech, right? It just simply means that for 15 years, he was in a catatonic state and he didn't do anything. He just sat there. It's a figure of speech. He was trying to make his point. So when it comes to evil, it's like, I took that sort of in the same vein. He's pure, he's just pure evil. He's the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. He didn't literally mean that, he is the devil incarnate and all this kind of stuff. And, but people like to read into it. And I think if there had never been Halloween sequels to justify things, I don't think people would be looking at Halloween 1 in the ways they try to use Halloween 1. The things that were supposed to be ambiguous, they try to make sense of them based on shit that came after, and it's very difficult to do because for the most part, it's apples and oranges. So yes, he was a kid that obviously had psychiatric issues, and he had major problems. What those were, we don't know. And the doctor was trying to figure it out. And that there lies the mystery, right? You weren't supposed to know what it was. You weren't supposed to know how he survived the fall, how he survived the shots. Well, he's literally supernatural. Maybe, maybe not. Well, how can he die? I need to know. I need to know. Yes, there's got to be something, right? How could it be there and then not there? Like when he's standing in Mr. Riddle's backyard, Laurie doesn't even turn his head, and he's gone. How could he do that? Was it her imagination? What? Wow, you weren't supposed to know. But then, of course, the sequels tried to explain it, and now we're back to square one, looking at we're trying to find things in the original Halloween that aren't actually there. And that's the problem because the original was supposed to be ambiguous. And when you're trying to find things that were never there in the first place, it can be very problematic. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. But it's a great question, but it's hard for me to answer because we weren't really supposed to know what it was. And that there lies the coolness and creepiness of it. You know what I mean? Some things are just best left a mystery, guys. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let's see here. Super chat from iPimp Trolls. Thank you for the generous super chat, iPimp Trolls. You are a big supporter of the channel. Much appreciated. Have you seen the new Godzilla poster of Godzilla blowing fire in the sky when it comes from the water? I remember you saying you love a poster of that image. P.S. Love your channel. Hope this helps. Absolutely it does. I mean, anything that, all of the super chats that are obtained through these live feeds and all that go right back into the channel. I have accounts designated for the Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, accounts designated for the live feeds, and it just goes right back into the channel. So yeah, absolutely, it's much appreciated. And now in regards to your question, love that poster. Yes, I understand why they have the billing at the top, with all the names. I actually think it'd be cooler if they got rid of that. I understand for marketing why that's there. A lot of these actors and actresses are, it's in their contract that their names will appear on posters. Not all the time, but sometimes that is the case. And sometimes for which order and all that kind of jazz. I think it would be cooler if the names weren't there, so it was just the sky, because I think the names kind of get in the way of the breath and all that shit. But I love that fucking poster. Oh, and I love it's like classic. Yeah, it's great. I like it much better than the Millie Bobby Brown one, where the title was like against Godzilla's stomach or something. Do you guys remember that? I did a video on that months ago, and I was like, and I did a mock poster, which I thought was better, and I removed Millie Bobby Brown from the poster. I understand why she was there, to give Godzilla some scale, but I just thought why is it vertical? It should be horizontal. And anyway, this is a much better poster. And I love the Japanese poster as well. Have you guys seen that? Really cool poster. So, yes, I definitely like that poster, and the helicopters all around him and shit, because the helicopters help give him scale. So, yeah, I love it. It's just such a great poster. He is the king of the fucking monsters, which is why I'm like, I don't understand why we're even having a King Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, I know that's the classic matchup, but it's just kind of, and I know some people are like, no, I think they're going to fight and then they're going to team up. And I'm like, lame. And do you want to know why they're going to do that? Do you want to know why, if they do that? If Godzilla and King Kong in next year's Godzilla versus King Kong, or King Kong versus Godzilla, whatever the fuck it's going to be called, if for the vast majority of the movie they're fighting each other, and then they team up because they have to fight some other threat, that's a fucking cop-out. I'm not saying it's not going to be cool, or that wouldn't be cool. Okay, cool. But at the end of the day, that's a cop-out, because they don't want to have a winner. They don't want to have a winner. They don't want to do it. You know, King Kong, I believe, I stand to be corrected, but I believe he is an American creation. Of course, Godzilla is a Japanese creation. And if you go back to the original intent of Godzilla, he was a metaphor for the Japanese and the Hiroshima and the bombs and the American. It was a whole other thing. It was a much different. It was a very geopolitical message to Godzilla that the Americans weren't quite a fan of back in the day. That's why a lot of the geopolitical nuclear themes in the Americanized version of the 54 film were removed. But that being said, but you know, pull the trigger, have some balls, and pull. We don't want to. Let's look at this realistically. Okay, Godzilla should win. Hands down. He's he's not king of the monsters for nothing. You're calling him king of the monsters. Okay, well, he should win. He has nuclear atomic breath. That doesn't mean King Kong's not going to put up a fight. He's a big fucking dude. But you had to make Kong Skull Island to justify the fight in the first place, because he was too small in Peter Jackson's King Kong, and that was not even a part of this whole thing. So you had to make a gigantic King Kong for the likes of we've never seen, just to compete with Godzilla. Okay, so that doesn't mean he's not going to put up a good fight. Yeah, sure, he'll get some shots. He's a big fucking dude, right? He's a big dude. He's going to get some shots in. But at the end of the day, it's like, come on, Godzilla's got to win this, you know? And if they team up, that, I don't care how well it's justified, they will have done that, in my opinion, because they didn't want to pull the trigger and have a winner. And I think that's fucking lame. But that's my opinion. No matter how cool the team up ends up being, I think that could have been the driving force for that. Anyway, that's my opinion right now. Okay, Ethan LeBlanc, thanks for the super chat. Ethan, much appreciated. Hey, Dave, do you think the Star Wars films, the official saga episodes, should conclude and be done forever, or pick up again sometime in the future? Well, I think it's too bad they're not concluding. I understand that there's, traditionally we've had 3, and now 3. I think they should have turned this into, I think they should have done one more. I think it would have been cool to have an episode 10, and that's a nice round number. And in the Roman numerals, of course, you have it as an X, right? And that would have been really cool. I just feel, because I'm somebody that didn't like The Last Jedi, I feel that it's like we need that time to develop these characters a bit more and have more arcs. Or it almost feels like we need that time, but not necessarily. And in JJ, I trust. And if he feels that he can bring these arcs full circle and give a deserving finish to the episodic Skywalker saga films in one movie that's 2.5 hours long. Okay. I just don't want it to feel rushed because there wasn't a lot of character development in the last. I mean, there was and there wasn't. Do you know what I mean? Like there was and there wasn't. Rey, not so much. Poe, yeah, a little bit. Finn, not really. Kylo Ren, yeah, I would say so. But there's so many problems that I have with that movie. So I would like Star Wars to take a giant leap forward. I don't give a fuck about the Knights of the Old Republic. I don't care. I know it's thousands of years before but it's all leading to that. It's all with Jedi and it's all with. Why not just say, okay, that whole thing was happening at that part of the galaxy, but you know what? Way over here in this other galaxy that nobody's ever been to, there's this fucking thing going on. And then you ask, well, maybe, yeah, but then it's not really Star Wars. I'm like, no, it is. It is. It absolutely is. It's taking place in the same universe, but it's a different thing that has nothing to do with the Knights of the Old Republic. No matter that the Knights of the Old Republic, I know it's thousands of years before, but it's all going towards what we know now. And I'm just tired of it. I just do something new, something fresh, where there's a new villain and I don't know. I don't fucking know. Or just stop making fucking movies. I don't know. I think they need a break. Well, I think it depends on how good this. I think it depends on how good Rise of Skywalker is. I definitely think this story has to end. Yes, the Skywalker saga in terms of Luke and the Emperor and Anakin, that has to end. Whether they continue it with Finn and Rey and Poe might be interesting. I don't know. It's tough to answer because there's so many variables. Tommy Ricknell, thank you, Tommy. Hi, Dave, from the After Midnight Land. I showed Caddyshack for my best friend yesterday. She didn't like it. Tough one. Yeah, Caddyshack. Well, you know what? It's old. It's an older comedy, right? It's from the 1980s, I believe, the early 80s, right? Sometimes showing older comedies. I don't know how old you are, Tommy, or how old she is, but some age can play a factor. Caddyshack's a fun. I haven't seen it in years, but it was funny. But I've seen bits and pieces of it since, and it's obviously dated, right? It'd be like watching Porky's now or Stripes. You watch that and you're like, well, it's funny, but if you don't have an emotional attachment to it already, it can be very difficult to begin to start to have one. It's like the Vacation movies, right? The original Vacation is one of my favorite comedies of all time. But you try to show that to somebody now, and it's like, well, it's cute. You know what I mean? It's like, no, but it's hilarious. Well, yeah, 1983 hilarious. So, anyway. Frank Riker, thank you for the super chat, Frank. Hey, Dave, do you think Godzilla will lose if he's Mecha Godzilla in disguise with its original purpose being an alien creation? Do I think Godzilla will lose if he's Mecha Godzilla in disguise with its original purpose being an alien creation? Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't think he's Mecha Godzilla, so I think that's sort of a moot. But I get what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Luke Myers, 78 says, Dave, do you think Kylo Ren became Darth Vader in the Rise of Skywalker? Do you think Kylo Ren becomes Darth Vader became Darth Vader? No, I don't think he becomes Darth Vader. I think he will continue to struggle. I think Kylo Ren, I don't think will achieve his ultimate goal. I think he will be far more respected in the Rise of Skywalker. Because that's been his goal. Like, a lot of people don't like the fact that he throws temper tantrums. I love that. You see, people respect Kylo Ren not because he's wise and powerful. They respect him because he's unhinged and because he's strong with the Force and they know what he's capable of. But that's not the kind of respect he wants. That's one of the reasons, if not the reason, why he killed his father. A lot of people forget that. He killed his father because he knew he had to prove to Snoke and to everybody else of what he's capable of, because that's the kind of respect he wants. They only respect him now because he's unhinged. It's like that scene where he goes in, in The Force Awakens, where he goes in to see Rey and Rey's escaped and he starts tearing shit up, and those troopers come around the corner and they're like, and they go the other, and they go the other way. Ha ha ha. Funny, right? Okay, cute. But when you look at that objectively, you see, well, yeah, they respect him because of his power, not because they respect him because they really respect him and who he is and what he stands for and what he's trying to do. And no, they don't give a fuck about that. They don't respect him in the same ways they respect Vader. You know what I mean? So, and that's what he wants. So that was one of the reasons why he murdered his father, because he wanted to show what he's capable of. He wanted to prove it to himself. It's a great scene, when he says, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Can you help me? Of course, you're supposed to think that, can you help me turn back to the light, right? No, that's not what he meant. And then when he stabs his father, what does he say? He says, thank you. You know what I mean? It's like, see what you did there? He's a badass motherfucker, man. And I think he gets progressively more powerful and more respected as the films go on. So I think he will be respected, and I think he might even be closer to becoming that Vader, but I don't think he ever does. And I hope he's not redeemed. I hope he's killed, actually. That's what I hope. Aaron Keller, thank you for the super chat, Aaron. Dave, when's the next hate mail coming? Oh, I've got some in the can. There's been some doozies. I got to compile a list together and do that video. It will definitely come. Dahlia Williams says, what are your thoughts on the new Chucky voice? Well, I haven't heard much of it. Really, we've only heard, good night, Andy. There's really not a lot there. To me, as a voice actor, it's going to come down, there's two things, okay? There's Mark Hamill's voice, all right, with whatever he decides to do, whatever he's been directed to do. And then there's that placed against the backdrop of the performance of the doll. So it's a team, okay? So I got to hear his voice and I got to see the animatronics, and because apparently, according to the producers, it's like 80% animatronics and only 20% CGI. So that's really interesting. So I got to see him animated. I don't mean animated in terms of, CGI. I just mean in terms of moving. I got to see how he moves, how he talks, how he, turns his head, all that matched up against Mark Hamill's portrayal of Chucky. And then I'll be like, does it work or does it not? Right now, just hearing his voice, well, sounds fine, but I could go, good night, Andy. And not seeing it, and you'd probably go, oh, that sounds pretty good. That sounds really good. That sounds really good. Right? Because there's nothing proprietary about it, right? You know what I mean? So I got to see sort of how it really matches up. But good question, though. Okay, let's see here. Scrolling back. I can't even talk today. Movie Chat and More says, did you enjoy Creed 2 and do you think the Creed franchise can survive without Stallone? I've answered this many times before. I did enjoy Creed 2, not as much as Creed 1. I don't think they need to make another Creed. I think it's completely and utterly unnecessary because you peaked. If you wanted to make more Creed films, you've peaked too soon. The redemption of his father's death should have been the final, Creed movie. And then I got people saying, well, why doesn't he fight, Clubber Lang's son? And why? Mr. T's character has nothing to do with Apollo. So I think it ended perfectly. I don't think there needs to be any more Creed films. I don't think they should make any more. I think it ended perfectly with Rocky going back to his son. And quite frankly, I think the Rocky series should have ended with Rocky Balboa, but that's just me, because it's always been about Rocky and Adrian. It has always been about Rocky and Adrian, and that was a perfect ending when he's like, Adrian, we did it, and he walks off into the distance and he fades out, and that's it. That's great. But there's Creed at the end of part 2 with his wife and his son or daughter, whatever it was, with the hearing aids on the baby in front of his father's tombstone. And that's it. Yeah. One and done. Great. It's come full circle. You did it, man. Anything now would just feel like extra shit that we don't need. So no, I don't think they should. I liked the 2 movies. They were fine for what they were. Leave it alone. Okay. The Crystal Laker, just a super chat. Thank you, Crystal Laker. Much appreciated. Let's see here. Ethan LeBlanc says, I laughed harder at the hate mail video than I have in a long time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's real shit, guys. That stuff that I read to you is legitimate stuff that comes in from viewers. I don't get too much. There was as somebody pointed out that they were worried that there could be, after I did that hate mail video, there were some people that started sending me hate mail, but I could tell it wasn't really hate mail, and you can pick it out. Like, you know when somebody's being genuine, you know what I mean? Or when somebody's just trying to sort of capitalize on it because they want to see their hate mail read on, video so they can go, oh, I got McRae. No. But there's been some, not as much as before, but there's some certainly that I could do another one. So I do plan on doing another one. Usually the hate mail is just from people that, well, you know what it's like, you know what the fuck you're talking about, and you fuck, and they write this long diatribe of shit, and I'm just like, if you want me to answer you, the shorter is always the better. That doesn't mean I will answer you, because like I said, I average like 35, 40 messages, even on Facebook, a day. Seriously, I kid you not. It's insane. And I try to read them as best as I can. But if you're asking me something specific and a long thing, I probably won't get back. It's not personal. It's never personal. It's just, as you can imagine, it's hard to respond to that because it's like, where do I start? You know what I mean? So anyway, let's see here. Scrolling up, trying to get a few maybe I missed. Let's see here. Zach Frederick says, I love both Godzilla and King Kong, but I would like King Kong to win because he's an American creation. So therefore, I'm a little more on his side here. I can totally understand that. God bless America, land that I love. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm Team Godzilla all the way because I've been a Godzilla fan ever since I was a kid, but maybe he'll win. Maybe Kong will win. I don't know. I think that'll be lame if he does, but you never know. You never know. He's the underdog. Maybe he'll be there and he'll be like, wah, wah, and he'll give like a fucking uppercut and and Godzilla's and he topples over with his little arms. I don't know. Maybe he will. Certainly King Kong's got gigantic arms. That's for sure. He's going to give Godzilla a run for his money, but I just hope Godzilla wins. Matthew Roberts says, you ready for the Star Wars live action series coming to Disney Plus and streaming, Dave? Well, I got to say this. I did watch the extended clip that was filmed at Star Wars Celebration of The Mandalorian, and I got to say I'm interested. I probably will get Disney Plus. It's a pretty good price. I'm hoping that it will also be $6.99 here in Canada, but it might not be. It might be $8.99 or something. I don't know. But we'll see. And I will probably get Disney Plus, not just for Star Wars, but of course they now own Fox, right? So, I mean, there's so much. It's not just about Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, there's so much that they own that will now wind up on their streaming service. And including, are they going to be doing original content? I'm not sure if they are. But anyway, so they're going to give Netflix a run for their money for sure. So yeah, but I'm definitely going to get it. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. I don't know if I'll do videos on it. It depends how emotionally... I'm not doing any videos on The Mandalorian right now because... The Mandalorian, I'm not emotionally attached to anything right now. Like, it looks cool, but when I start watching it, if it's like blowing me away and I find myself getting really attached, then maybe I'll start doing some videos on it. But right now it's kind of a wait and see. But I love the grittiness and the real lived in feel of it for sure. Feels like old school Star Wars, which of course was their whole point. Not their whole point, but that was a creative choice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's see here. Let me see. Mark Warling says, top 3 theme music from Halloween. Does the new 2018 soundtrack make the top 3? It does for me. Top 3 pieces of music from Halloween, just in general? Well, it's hard to say because a lot of the music is the same. They're just different renditions of that music, right? Like if we go through the whole Halloween series, the Halloween theme is constant. Laurie's theme is constant in the movies that she's in. You know, and then of course the shape stalks, and then what Alan Howarth was doing in 4 and 5, and like, I mean, there's yeah, like it's in 6 as well. I think the original Halloween theme, without the one that plays at the beginning of the movie, without the beat, without that, because that came later in subsequent re-releases of the soundtrack. But the actual Halloween theme that you hear at the beginning of the 1978 film, where there is no beat, is my favorite rendition of that theme. I think the shape stalks is iconic, and I think I think those are your top 3. I think those are your top 3 iconic Halloween themes. And then every other theme around that is just a different variation of the other 3 themes, really, at the end of the day. I do like I think those are your top 3. But it's hard to do overall, you know. Certainly the shape stalks Allison is probably the best piece of music in that new Halloween movie. And it's unfortunate that the music is so strong and the scene is so weak. But, you know, what are you going to do? Because the scene is weak. You have such a strong piece of music complementing a scene that lasts 32 seconds or whatever it was, or 35 seconds. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. Let's see here. The Halloween franchise fan says, Dave, if the original Halloween was going to be a one-time thing, do you think Myers would be as iconic as he is? No. I think he would be like, no, I don't. I think it would be the same with any one movie. I think he would be a staple. I think you would know who he was. I think the Halloween movie would be revered, probably far more revered than it even is today, and it's very revered today. But if Halloween was just Halloween on its own, I think it would be even higher on the totem pole than it is now. So, and Michael Myers would be a name, but would it be a household name in the world of horror? Hard to say. I mean, even with its sequels, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees dominated the 1980s. A lot of people, because of their emotional, nostalgic attachment to the Michael Myers character, like to try and make arguments that Michael Myers was a big thing in the 1980s. And I'm sorry, listen, I lived through the 1980s. I was a kid, you know, I was a young boy, but I remember the 80s very well. And anybody my age and a bit older who does remember the 1980s knows damn well that Michael Myers was nobody in the 1980s. He wasn't around. Right? You've heard me say this many times. I mean, you had Halloween 2, 1981, which was in 1981, right? And then you didn't have him again until Halloween 4's The Return of Michael Myers 7 years later in 1988. And in that 7 years, Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger were tearing it up at the box office. That's why there was a Freddy versus Jason and not a Michael versus Jason or a Freddy versus Michael. They were the 2 most iconic horror characters of the 1980s and arguably the 2 most iconic slasher villains of all time. And that's not to take anything away from Michael. Certainly he has stepped up his game in the later half, and he's arguably more popular today, but that's because he's been consistently in the pop culture consciousness with movies. Bad or good, he's been consistent. But in the 1980s, no. So if it was just the original Halloween, I don't know. Yeah, probably not. And maybe that would have been a better thing. Maybe it would have been better, if you know what I mean. Who knows? We'll never know. Okay. Wes Hightower is in the house. The problem with Michael Myers as an icon is that he's popular for all the wrong reasons. I couldn't agree more. I think it's a good point you make. Since Michael became like the original Halloween, and I've said this ad nauseum. You've heard me say this 1,000 times. The original Halloween is not a slasher movie. It's not. It's considered a slasher movie by and large because of its sequels. Because the sequels definitely fall into the slasher genre. So by default, you kind of just lump the first one in there because it was the first one in the series. But if it was just that movie, it's not a slasher movie per se. No, I mean, slasher movie. I mean, look at the slasher films of the 1970s. Look at the slasher films of the 1970s. Halloween's not a slasher movie. It's got some slasher elements, you know, in terms of seeing the knife come down and attacking Laurie, or seeing that scene where he's attacking, Judith. But it's very much a power of suggestion film. It's very much a psychological thriller of its time. It's a whodunit, not a whodunit. I mean, you know who did it, but it's that mystery sort of keeping things at bay, dangling the mood, atmosphere, music, you know, from a distance, you know, dark. It's all, it's that kind of thing. It's not a blood, guts, and gore movie. It's not a The Hills Have Eyes. It's not a the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not a, you know, it's not even the slasher movies of the 70s, really. But for all intents and purposes, they considered it one, I guess, because of its content. But I agree. It's very. I don't know how long you've been in the chat room here, Wes, but I was saying earlier in the stream that it's very difficult to compare the original Halloween with the rest of the franchise. And people love to do it and they want to do it. And I understand why they do it. But because the original was supposed to be a one-off and Michael was always supposed to be ambiguous, including his motives and all that kind of jazz, it's very difficult to then... Spitting again. That's what happens when you talk nonstop for a couple of hours. It's very difficult to go back into the original Halloween and start to make sense of things that were never supposed to make sense or supposed to be revealed. And you're basing it on stuff that they created after the fact. So it wasn't an organic story driving the narrative forward. They're making it up as they go along. And that's why you'll look at things from the original and you try to justify things in the original with what you're experiencing in 4 and 5 and 6. And at the end of the day, you can't do that because there's nothing in the original that was leading to a Thorn cult. There's nothing in the original that was leaning to, even a sister, right? You know what I mean? And all that kind. So it's very hard to pick apart the original Halloween and try to fit it. You know, it's like putting a square into, or a circle into a square peg, or whatever the fucking saying is. You know what I'm talking about, right? So it's hard. People love to do it and understand why they do, but that's why we run into these debates and arguments and problems. If it had just been a one-off, I think they would have really liked Michael Myers for all the right reasons. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where people just need to know everything. And fortunately, I'm not that kind of person. Let me see here. Square peg into a round hole. Thank you, Wes. I knew there was something like that. You know what I'm talking about. And it's true. It's very difficult to because it was never... There was never a cohesive, you know what I mean? It's like when you look at The Last Jedi and then you look at The Force Awakens, you're like, that's not really a great analogy, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you're making it up as you go along, so then you kind of start to go, it's hard to make sense of things. It's hard. When you make up shit as you go along, it's hard to go back through all the films and find anything that actually is consistent. So anyway... let's see here. There was a super chat up here that I didn't want to miss. Anthony T. Thank you, Anthony T, for the super chat. Much appreciated. I just watched Halloween 2018 for the third time. I thought, how and why can they make so many bad choices? Do you think behind the scenes there was a rift between writer, director, producer? No, I think no, not at all. I think the movie went off without a hitch. I think everybody got along, and I think everybody was really enjoying what they were doing. I don't think Halloween 2018, and this is my opinion, I don't think it's a bad movie, but I don't think it's a very good Halloween movie, right? If I take Halloween 2018 on its own merits, which is difficult to do because it's supposed to be a Halloween film. But if I look at it as a modern day slasher movie that kills a couple hours, it's kind of fun, it's fine. I mean, it meets the status quo. When I look at it as a Halloween movie that is supposed to be a direct sequel to the original Halloween movie, all I see is missed opportunities. There's certain things that I go, oh, well, that was a cool shot. That was a nice moment. The shapes, stalks, Allison, right? That theme was really good. But as a whole, it's like, man, there's a lot of missed opportunities here. A lot of missed opportunities. It's not a bad movie. It's just not a very good Halloween movie, in my opinion, which is unfortunate because I think it could have been so much better. But do I think there was a rift? No, I think everybody was on board and having a great time. And yeah, and I think you got what they got, Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Let's see here. Another super chat came in. Ethan LeBlanc. Thank you, Ethan. Really appreciate it. Why do the Star Wars prequels get so much hate? What did they do wrong in your opinion? Should they have been done differently or maybe not at all? The problem with the Star Wars prequels, in retrospect, looking back as a 40-year-old man who can look at things objectively and not get, emotionally attached, the problem with the prequels is that it was very, well, there's a couple of things. One of them was there was no, if I could use this as a word, tangibility. Okay, so it was like looking at a pristine, crisp, beautiful Ferrari. Okay, and it's smooth and it's glistening in the right light and the tires are shining and it's just, it's beautiful, isn't it? And that's the fucking problem, because you come from a very lived in, gritty, practical effects world, which makes sense because that's what the effects were at the time. But you come from that world into a bunch of blue and green screen shit. Like, you can tell they're not really in those. And I understand that in George's imagination, it would have cost way more to actually build all that. I get it. But it was just so pristine and crisp and beautiful and shiny, and there was no grit, there was no grime, there was no organic, tangible, lived-in, feel real. It's like I was watching an animated film, essentially. That's one of the problems that a lot of people had. The other problem is that it was very heavy. When you talk about Star Wars and where you're coming from, you look at the heavy sort of exposition that was in, certainly, especially in the Phantom Menace, very heavy. There was some action. There was some cool stuff. Certainly that lightsaber battle at the end was pretty cool. Still iconic today. Was with Darth Maul. But it was very heavy. A lot of exposition, a lot of politics, a lot of, and I guess it was needed to sort of make sense of where this is happening and the rise and stuff, but it's light years away from the exciting Star Wars that we came from. It was exciting in pockets, but I mean, as a whole, it just didn't have that feel. And all of the people and not the people, but the aliens and the creatures, they're all CGI. So there was no tangibility. There was no, like, when you watch The Force Awakens, it's really cool to watch that scene. Like, The Force Awakens was on AMC the other day over Easter weekend. They had a marathon, and I happened to catch it. My girlfriend is over, and we watch that scene where they go into that bar, right? Ba-da-boo, ba-boom, ba-da-bee. When they go into the bar, to meet Maz, and everybody's practical, and there's cool little shots, and it feels lived in, and it's cool, right? You don't get any of that in the prequels. So the prequels it's a great story. It's a great story. But its execution isn't, it's got some problems, and it's light years from where we came from. I could keep going and going and going, but that's for me, those are a few of the problems that I have with it. Far too much exposition, and just like, it's so glitzy. It's like too much icing. Too much icing in terms of the visual presentation and not enough cake. Okay. Let's see here. Is that a super chat? No, I already answered that. Luke Myers 78 says Force Awakens was great. I love The Force Awakens. I don't think it's a perfect film, but like you've heard me say 1,000 times, it was what it needed to be, right? Where Star Wars was, despite the fact that you guys might love the prequels. That's awesome. That's great. But the broader collective majority did not, for a variety of reasons. A couple of them I mentioned here. So Star Wars was kind of dead. And The Force Awakens was what it needed to be. It was what it needed to be. And JJ did a great job on setting great shit up, And when you see Luke's face at the end of The Force Awakens, when he's there and he sees Rey handing that lightsaber, the iconic lightsaber, arguably the greatest symbol in the history of Star Wars, that lightsaber, handing it back to him, and he's there, and the music is building to that, epic crescendo, and there's Luke, the pain on his face, you can see the emotion. Is he upset because he felt Han's death? Is he feeling guilt because he didn't get back into the fight because of his sister? Did he feel the Republic and those planets? He probably felt all of that, right? You can feel it, and all of a sudden there's this chick on the island giving him that. It's like, what the fuck, right? You can feel it. Wonderful setup, and literally a cliffhanger. No, that was just a lightsaber. Toss over the shoulder. Colin Altman says, "Hey Dave, what are your thoughts on the Conjuring 3 coming next year, and do you think they have run the Conjuring universe into the ground with all the spin-offs?" First answer to your first question is I'm looking forward to it. I think the Conjuring is the best. I like the Conjuring 2, but it was a slight step down for me. It was fine, but I think the first one is a better movie. James Wan's not directing the third one, so that's, for me, a strike against it. But I think they should just leave it there. I think you should wrap up a trilogy. Famous last words. I never do, as long as I continue to make money. And I don't give a shit about Annabelle or Annabelle 2, and I don't really give a shit about this new Annabelle that's coming out. I know the Warrens are back, and that's cool. That's going to give it some legitimacy, and that's cool. And this Annabelle movie that's coming out now should really have just been the Annabelle film. That's really what it should have been. But Annabelle to me is she's an auxiliary player. She's just a side. She's not. I don't think there ever should have been an Annabelle movie ever. Like there never should have been a Nun movie. They're just side players that complement the movie that they're currently in. They don't need a movie of their own. And the fact that they did it, it's just fucking garbage. It's garbage. They're garbage. So it just proves, it's just, they work best complementing and accenting the narrative for which they're a part of. They don't necessarily, just because it's cool and it looks cool, doesn't mean that, we can build an entire series around this. Like, fuck off with that. So that's kind of how I feel. So I think they should just end it with The Conjuring 3 and just leave everything alone. Verisimilitude says, "Hey Dave, what's your favorite Evil Dead movie?" First one. Like the first, 1982 or whatever it was. The Halloween franchise fan says, "Dave, what do you make of the actor Tim Curry?" Oh, I love Tim Curry. Not just for Pennywise, but I love him as an actor. I think he's funny. I feel so sad that he had that stroke. And he's going to live out the remainder of his life kind of, in the position that he's in. That's really unfortunate because I think he's just awesome. Let's see. Deshaun Riley says, "Hey Dave, who's the next slasher you want to see next?" You mean what's the next slasher movie I want to see next? I'm not a big slasher fan. I like horror films, but in terms of the B-movie slasher, not a big fan of those movies, So, I mean, I like, the Jason and the Freddy and the Halloween and the, your staples. But in terms of another slasher movie coming out, and I don't really care, really, to be honest with you. I would love them. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of potential with Friday the 13th, but it's not just about doing... They can't just do what they did in 2009, because they've already done that. So they got to do something different, which is why I think they should take a giant leap and recreate the first movie. Yeah, without Jason. Yeah, you heard it. No, they can't do that because... I understand. But what are you going to do? Just recreate the 2009 movie again? Just a bit of a different narrative in there? Gotta take some risks, man. Winning cures everything. If they made a Friday the 13th movie, stay with me now. If they made a Friday the 13th movie that was a loose remake of the original film, okay? And it was creepy, fucking eerie, very moody and atmospheric. The counselor's at the camp. Kids aren't there yet, getting shit set up. There's the thunderstorm. Somebody's killing. Don't know who it is. But it's really well done. And they made it their own, but they're tipping their hat, but making it their own. And it's really fucking creepy. And it's setting up the potentiality of Jason's return. But it's actually like you walk away going, that was actually not bad. That was pretty fucking good. Nobody's going to give a fuck. Nobody's going to give a fuck that it was his mother in the movie. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to fucking care. Because you know that Jason's coming back now. A great setup. You just bring Jason back immediately, which I know he's the brand. I understand. It's just going to be some hybrid remake of the 2009 film, essentially. Right? So it's kind of like, well, we've already done this. Let's take a bit of a risk here. What are we going to do to bring Friday the 13th back? Maybe, like I said, they'll hop on the nostalgia train and they'll remake they'll do an alternate Friday the 13th 5. They'll bring back Corey Feldman and they'll bring, fucking Ted White is still alive. He's like, what is he, 92 or something like that? Ted White comes back as Jason. Hey, all right, cha-cha, ha-ha, kick, mama. He comes back. Oh, that'd be awesome. Let's see here. Oliver Mercer says, did you hear about Lorraine Warren passing away? I did hear about that. Yeah, she lived a good life though. She was what? She was what? 90 something, I think. Yeah, she lived a good life. But yes, I did hear of her passing. Let's see here. Jacqueline McEwen says, I don't think we'll ever see a true remake of the first Friday the 13th. Nobody would want to risk doing a movie that didn't have Jason as the main killer. I agree with you 100%, and that's such a shame. And it's such a shame because then you have to ask yourself, as the filmmakers, what do we want? Do we want to make a Friday the 13th movie that potentially sets up a new incarnation of a series? Or do we want to get in and get out, which is let's capitalize on some nostalgia and let's make a Friday the 13th movie that's an unofficial sequel, or maybe that, it erases part 5, right? With Roy and all that, and it becomes, and we capitalize on nostalgia and then we get out. Or do we hope and make one that's kind of like the 2009 one, but or maybe it's a sequel, an actual sequel to the 2009 one. Like, I don't know what the end game is. No pun intended to Endgame. But what is the end game? And I agree with you, and I think it's such a shame. It's such a shame because building a strong foundation, nobody's going to care. You're not going to care. I'm not going to care. If they actually did do a Friday the 13th remake where it was the mother, or maybe it's somebody a bit different, but not maybe, you know what I mean? But it was really good. Now remember, that's the key. The movie is actually really good. It's a really fucking good movie. Marketing is great. Marketing's great. You go to see it. Let's say it costs $10 million to make, makes $80 million at the box office. Huge success. Maybe makes $140 million worldwide. Huge success. Nobody's going to fucking care that Jason wasn't in it because it was a really good movie and it sets the foundation for his return. Do you know what I'm saying? Do they want to take that risk? No, I agree with you. Probably not. And it's unfortunate because I just don't see how we're just not going to get much of the same going forward. Whether you do a sequel to the 2009 movie, whether you do a unofficial or an official Friday the 13th, a alternate Friday the 13th Part 5, or you just do a new Friday the 13th movie, but with Jason, it just feels like, I've seen this. It's going to be a hybrid of the 2009 movie. They'll probably try to cram him dying as a boy at the beginning and then having the mother and then him there and then, I don't know. I would greenlight it. I would spend $10 million and I would greenlight it. Because if you spend between $5 and $10 million, let's say 20 mil, 25 mil total with marketing, you're bound to make it back. You're bound to make it back. If that movie is marketed well, you're bound to make it back, right? If they spend $5 to $10 million on a Friday the 13th movie, if that, factor in double it for marketing, you're bound to make that back at the very least, regardless of whether the movie is good or not. So you just hope that people really like it. And if it is really good, you're laughing. But that's me. Okay, let's see here. Scrolling back, just want to make sure. Willie Talbot says, Dave, you rock. You rock too, Willie. OG Crush Zed says, how would you write Michael versus Jason? I wouldn't, because I don't want one. Jeff Jenkins, I was 16 when Phantom Menace came out. So you could say I did too. I don't know what you're referring to, but obviously something I was talking about with the Star Wars. Well, I was 20 when it came out, so that's only 4 years older than you. So you get it. You remember. Yeah, absolutely. The Smoky says, hey Dave, would you a Saturday movie night on, would I do a Saturday movie night on Halloween 5? I would. I have not put it as part of my, as part of the movies to vote on yet on my Patreon. And the reason why I haven't done it is because I think it would be an obvious clear winner. So I don't think it's fair, really. So I'll probably in the future just do one. Do you know what I mean? Because if I put Halloween 5 on any list, who wants me to talk about Halloween 5? Come on, right? I mean, no other movie stands a chance. Maybe Resurrection might, but really at the end of the day, right? So I do plan on doing it, yes. Luke Meyer says, if J.J. Abrams does great on Force Awakens, then yeah, he definitely will do even amazing on The Rise of Skywalker. Maybe. In J.J. I trust. I think there's a high probability that J.J. Abrams is going to do, I think he's going to deliver a better movie than The Last Jedi. But there's a variety of reasons for that. Number one, I think he's a better filmmaker than Rian Johnson. I think Rian Johnson's a good filmmaker. I think J.J. Abrams is better. I think J.J. Abrams is better in this medium. I think J.J. Abrams is a Star Wars fan. I think he likes to deliver fan service and makes no apologies for it. And that's what... Listen, I don't need to see Endgame to know that there will be a lot of fan service in Endgame. That's what you want. That's what you're building towards. Give it to them. That's what they want. As long as the narrative doesn't rely on fan service, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Right? So with The Rise of Skywalker, as JJ said, you are completing 9 movies, not just this trilogy. So, yeah, I think there's going to be some fan service. I think he's going to deliver. I think he is. Whether we'll like what he's dishing out, I don't know. But I think it will be a better Star Wars movie than The Last Jedi. I think people will like it. There will be a broader collective of people that like the movie more than The Last Jedi. Less people will hate The Rise of Skywalker than they did The Last Jedi. And that's just going on what we know statistically about Abrams. So, in JJ I trust. It's so unfortunate that The Last Jedi was the abomination that it was. Because if The Last Jedi had been just as good as The Force Awakens, the excitement and anticipation for The Rise of Skywalker would be Endgame level. Maybe not quite, but approaching that. I love that all you fans that are really excited about Endgame and that have been emotionally invested in this 22 film saga over the last 10 years. I wish as a Star Wars fan, I could be feeling the same and saying the same thing about The Rise of Skywalker. There's excitement around it. There will always be excitement around a Star Wars film. But it's not where it could be because of The Last Jedi. Not because of Solo. Solo was fine. Wasn't needed, but it was fine. It was because of The Last Jedi. And it's so unfortunate because the excitement around The Force Awakens was Endgame level shit. Do you remember that? Right? That's the excitement that could be around The Rise of Skywalker leading up. And it's not. Not yet, anyway. We'll see. We'll see what other stuff comes out. I don't know. I just hope they take risks. I don't want them to play it safe. This is the final one. Go out with a bang. Go out with a bang. Just drop everything on the table. At this point, I don't fucking care. Bring Luke back. Have him as a Force ghost fighting with a lightsaber. Yeah, but they're not I don't fucking care. This is it. Do it. Do it. I don't fucking care. Yeah, but in book 3, section 5, it says that the Jedi can't... I don't care. Do it. Do it. Bring back Anakin as a Force ghost and have him fighting fucking Palpatine. Just fucking do it. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Have Rey fucking... Have Rey be a Palpatine. Rey is a Palpatine. She kills Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren dies. Just fucking do it. Do that shit. Why not? I mean, what else you got to lose at this point? Just fucking do it. Wrap it up, man. Take some risks. Take some risks. I don't want them to play it safe. That's why I am a huge proponent and pulling for that. Skywalker, in The Rise of Skywalker, is referring to a concept or a title rather than a person. It's probably going to refer to a number of things because that's how they can kill, 5 birds with one stone and try to please everybody. Hope they're not going to fucking do that. But I really hope it's like the next level of a Jedi. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't think they have the balls to do it. Don't think they're going to do it. But I still will hold out hope that that's what they do because I want them to take some fucking risks, Don't play it safe. Take some risks. You could say, well, they took some risks in The Last Jedi. No, they took risks that didn't line up narratively with what came before. You can't do that in the second act. Yes, The Last Jedi, for all intents and purposes, took risks, but it was avant-garde for the sake of being avant-garde. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can do that when you begin your own trilogy, when you're starting from scratch. But when somebody says, once upon a time, there was an old lady who sits on a bench, go, you can't take over saying, no, it wasn't an old lady, she was 30. No, it wasn't a bench, it was a car. No, you can't do that because you're throwing wedges into things and then it gets weird and it's fun. It doesn't make fucking sense. Anyway, don't get fucking started. Oh man, I should do a video where I just fucking rant about fucking Last Jedi. Patrick Hartnett says, "Go Dave, go! Shot sandwich." James Bach says, "It didn't highlight when I add you on the last question." So, it didn't. That's weird, James. Don't put spaces in my name. Put @DaveMcCrae as all one thing. It's kind of like Twitter, I think. So if you put spaces, that might have been the reason. Try again, and we'll see if it works. Let's see here. Adam Carl Green says, this is a great question. I love when they're new questions. Favorite film for its cinematography? Ooh, there's a bunch. Recently I got to say I loved The Revenant. The cinematography in The Revenant was spectacular. Old school stuff. Shawshank Redemption had some great cinematography. The Green Mile. Road to Perdition. Road to Perdition has some wonderful cinematography. I love cinematography where it becomes almost a character in the movie. You can feel how cold it is. You can feel how, Prisoners has great cinematography. You can really feel the emotional, atmospheric aesthetic, and it becomes a character in the movie. So, there's too many to name, but definitely those are some more modern ones for sure. Let's see here. Okay, I'm getting a lot of ats, so maybe it finally worked. The Hydra 92 says, thoughts on Jeepers Creepers. Do you care for it? I like the first one. Second one was okay. Haven't seen the third one. The Halloween franchise fan says, have you seen the cult classic Clue? Years ago. Haven't seen it in a long time. It's been so long I don't really remember anything about it. Anthony Alcarez says, not a question, but just want to let you know I've been subbed to you since you were at 200 subs. Wow! 200 subs! Dude! Long-time supporter here, ladies and gentlemen. 200 subs, that's got to be like... Well, I sprung to life very quickly when I started talking about Halloween. Because as you know, I wasn't really putting my face out there, right? I was just uploading some Halloween shit. So, but you've been subscribed to me. God, that's got to be quite a few years now. Because 200 subs would have been at least maybe, 10 years ago? 7 years ago? Long time ago, man. Really appreciate appreciate that. I just appreciate you sticking around. That's awesome. It's awesome. If I could send you a gift basket, I would. Mark Warling says, "Hey Dave, top 3 Stephen King movies. For me, it's Silver Bullet, Christine, and The Shining. For me, it would be The Shining, Shawshank Redemption, and The Green Mile. But that's, but right in there too is Stand By Me, Cujo, Christine. Yeah, there's so many. Carrie. There's so many. Let's see here. Alex G says, Dave, have you ever seen Spielberg's first movie, Duel? Yo, yes. One of my favorite movies of all time. Love Duel. Dennis Weaver, love it. Love when he's on the road and he passes the truck and he's like, remember that scene? He's like fucking going crazy. Yeah, I love that movie. That's a movie. Oh, that's a movie I should put on my Patreon for a Saturday movie night. I don't know if it'll get voted in. But yes, I love Duel. Love it. Oh, yes, I specifically remember your vid on Halloween night when you dressed up as Michael Myers. Yeah, that's years ago. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for being a long-term supporter. I really appreciate that. Noah Smith says, watch Duel over the weekend. Great film. Yeah, it was Spielberg's first movie for all intents and purposes. I mean, it was the movie that he did that one, and then he went on to the Sugarland Express, and then of course he went on to Jaws. But that was the movie. I mean, there were a lot of things in Duel that he emulated and carried over from there into Jaws. So if you watch the special features on Duel and you watch the interview with Spielberg, you'll see all about that. So love Duel. Fucking awesome. 71, I think? Something like that. He was young then. He was like, what, 20? I think he was like 24 or 25 when he did Duel. Just insane. Jason Roussel says, Dave, do a mega rant video on wrapping up the current SW trilogy. Let your feelings flow. Hey, listen, I'm going to be doing more videos on the rise of Skywalker. I started a little playlist on my channel. I've only done 2 so far, but when the poster drops, I'll talk about it. When the any new trailers that drop, I'll talk about it. Any new major news. I mean, I'm certainly not like... there's that, who's that kid on, I say he's a kid, I really don't know how old he is. Is it Mike Zero? Is that his name? Whenever I try to, now I don't know him. I don't know him. I'm not here to say anything bad about him. I'm just astonished at the amount of times he uploads. Because whenever I try to YouTube Rise of Skywalker news, I find myself coming to his channel and I'm just like, God, is there anybody else doing? He uploads so often. It's unbelievable. I can't, and I think it's actually to his detriment because he has about 160 something thousand subscribers, but he's only averaging between about 4,000 and 5,000 views. Which is what I get here. But that makes sense because I only have 16,000 subs. So I'm getting the same views that he gets, but he has thousands of more subs than me. So I think it's not always good to upload 4 or 5 videos a day, folks. The algorithms don't catch on to that, and it actually can go against you. So I think it's actually hurting Mike rather than uploading 1 a day or 1 every 2 days or something like that. He just seems to be going balls to the wall on everything. And I don't know the kid. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I'm so surprised that he just seems like it. He's certainly passionate, although I have no idea what the hell he's going to talk about once this whole thing wraps up, because it's just all he does. So, I don't know. We'll see. Oliver Mercer says, hey Dave, have you ever seen The Ninth Configuration from William Peter Blatty? Blatty? Yeah, the director of Exorcist. It's a very smart, clear, funny film. I have not. I've never heard of it. I'm going to check it out. Thank you for the recommendation. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. Probably bot subs. Yeah, maybe. Probably not though. I could see people subbing to him. I mean, he's very passionate, and he enjoys what he does, and my hat goes off to him. I don't know if he's right about anything, but he certainly seems to be. He gets a lot of theories. I don't know who's giving him these theories, but anyway. The Halloween franchise fan says, "What do you think of the YouTuber Cody Leach?" I like Cody Leach. Yeah, I think he's great. I like Cody Leach. I like the guys at Wham. I like Lee McCoy. I like that they all. What I like about, we all have different styles. I mean, they're more movie reviewers, right? They will review movies. I'm not really a movie reviewer. I'm more of a movie commentator, right? But what I like about Cody Leach and Lee and the guys over at Wham is they appear to they don't toe any party lines. They really don't care what's popular or what's hot or what opinion. They tell you their opinion, and if you like it, great. If you don't, they couldn't care less. And that's how I am. That's how I operate here. We always hope that you agree with us, but if you don't, I don't lose any sleep over it. You know, I don't want people coming to my channel to figure out what they think, you know. So, no, I like Cody very much. And Cody and I are planning on doing a video together. That's right. You heard it here first, folks. We are planning on doing a video together probably in the next month or so. So look out for that. I won't tell you what it is, but you will be pleasantly surprised. Let's see here. Nick says, "What's your favorite comedy film, Dave?" There's a bunch, but I gotta say Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Steve Martin, John Candy. Classic. It's my go-to. I never get bored with it. I love the first Vacation movie with Chevy Chase from 1983. I love, oh man, it's so hard because comedy's even changed over the years. I would say Planes, Trains, and Vacation are probably two of my favorite comedies of all time. For sure. Jonathan Ball says, "What do you think of Dog Soldiers? Best werewolf movie in decades, in my opinion." That was directed by the same guy that directed The Descent, right? If I'm not mistaken. I have not seen that movie, but I love The Descent. Trivia for you. Years ago when The Descent came out, because The Descent came out in 2005, I think, I actually did a bunch of trailers for it. So that was a lot of fun to do. And I wonder if I should, because I keep all of my work on my computer in a folder. I should have one of the trailers I did for The Descent on my folders, in a folder somewhere. Maybe I'll upload that on like a Throwback Thursday or something like that. That would be cool to show you guys. I totally forgot about that. Love The Descent. Movie Chat and More says, "What would you say is the most iconic horror theme?" I would say the most iconic horror theme is probably Halloween. Then probably followed closely behind by The Exorcist. And The Exorcist might even be more iconic. Just because of what it refers to and how there's a lot of people who are very religious and of what it's pertaining to and the religious aspect of it, which can scare a lot of people. So it might be. Johnny Coffee, like the drink, only spelled exactly the same. Dave, have you ever seen any bit of the series Gotham? No, I have not. I don't really watch TV. I know you aren't much of a superhero kind of guy, but the series ends tomorrow and I'm excited for it. I'm glad you're excited for it. That is awesome, but I have not seen one single episode. Let's see here. There was an Aaron. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Aaron. Missed that. Dave, have you ever seen UHF? Oh my God, UHF! That's going back some years. Yes, but not in a long time. That was a good movie. Well, I mean, it was for its time, but it was, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, UHF. What year was that? 90? Is that 93? I want to say 93. 89. Wow, I was a little off. 89. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Weird Al. That's right. Yeah, it's been a while. It's silly. It's such a silly movie, but I didn't mind it. Okay. Let's see here. Super Saiyan Ryu, am I saying that right? Hey Dave, I found the scene in the movie Cobra that may have been inspired by Halloween 2. When you get a chance, search Cobra 1986, the night slasher scene on YouTube. Okay, let me, I'm going to just copy and paste this so I don't forget. Okay, 1 second here. I'm going to copy and paste that. All right, I'm not going to forget that now. I will check that out. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. Adam Carl Green says, Dave, do you have a favorite Paul Newman film? There's a lot of good Paul Newman films. I mean, Road to Perdition, that's the first one that comes to my mind because I think it's the last movie I saw with him in it. But he was in a lot of good movies. He was in even Slapshot. I mean, that's going back a long time. But that was a funny fucking good movie too for its time. That was Paul Newman, right? I think it was. Yeah. The One Brettster says, what are your thoughts on the A Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010? Definitely one of the most hated horror movies out there. I think Jackie Earle Haley was fine as Freddy. But I think A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010, you had emo Nancy and nobody was everybody was already fucked up when the movie began. So there was never an opportunity for us to live vicariously through these characters or become emotionally attached to any of these characters. So at the end of the day, Jackie Earle Haley, I know some people who are emotionally attached to Robert Englund and that portrayal can't get on board with the new look and the new sound. I understand that, but he was the least of the movie's problems. I think the movie suffered with exposition that, well, not exposition, but with a story that was just lacklusterly boring and characters that were just boring and a Nancy that was just, she was hot, but she was boring, so I mean, yeah. That's all I got to say about that. Okay. Mark Warling says, hey, Dave, Alfredo Hitchcock films. Which 3 are a must see? I'm going to watch 3 this weekend. Which ones would you recommend? I would recommend Psycho. I would recommend Rear Window. Absolutely. And I would probably recommend, I don't know, if you can get your hands on Rope or Dial M for Murder or Vertigo, like one of those 3 I think would be really good. I think Rope was Hitchcock, right? Rope's such a good movie. Oh my God. Rope 1948. Wow, man. Yeah, it's Hitchcock. Yeah, I would say Rope. I would say Rope, Psycho, and Rear Window. But you can switch out Rope with Dial M for Murder or Vertigo, and you'd be solid there too. Those would be my choices anyway. Okay. Luke Myers, rest in peace, John Candy. Yeah, John Candy died, hard to believe, 25 years ago last month in March. Only, 44, I think it was? So sad. So sad. The Shape says, hey, Dave, when do you think they'll release the alternate ending to Halloween 2018? I don't think they will. I actually, folks, 119 people watching. For those of you that no doubt have probably forgotten about it and maybe are still wondering, I am still going to do that video where I talk about my Halloween 2 concept idea, the sequel to the 2018 film. I've said this before. You've heard me say this a million times. I'm going to say it again right here on this live stream, although probably nobody will see it because we're practically 2 hours into the stream. I'm not fully confident that they are going to make a sequel to that movie. I'm not. I said it months ago. I'm not. Not because it didn't make a lot of money, not because it wasn't popular, because it was. They don't have the rights to do a sequel right now. And some people are floored by that. But you have to understand that the negotiation was probably a one-picture deal. And Trancas International probably did that because they didn't want Blumhouse to get too far ahead of themselves. They didn't want too many movies, because Trancas International is very protective of Halloween. It's arguably the only fucking thing they have. It's the only thing they're really known for. There's other minor things that they have, but Halloween's their bread and butter. And they didn't want to give too much away and put the cart before the horse. They probably wanted to maybe negotiate a picture-by-picture deal. So right now, as Jason Blum said, they do not have the rights to a sequel to Halloween. That didn't surprise me, although it did surprise some. And I quite frankly don't think he's necessarily in a rush to do it. He did hire that Scott Teems guy, supposedly, to pen a script. But I think he was hired to pen a script to kind of see what they come up with. Let's just see what they come up with. I don't think it was a done deal and that it was greenlit and that they were ready to move into pre-production and all that kind of shit. Not at all. I just think that it was, write something and we'll see what it is. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to do a sequel. All the eggs and all the ducks are in the proper rows for there to be a sequel. Even though I thought it was just a bunch of huge missed opportunities, for the most part, it did well at the box office, exceeded expectations, made 250-something million worldwide. Great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Most of the fans really enjoyed it. Why not make a sequel? Because I really don't think they know where to go that would justify them making a sequel that would be good. Maybe they were watching my videos. Maybe they were watching, probably not, but maybe somebody watched my videos where I said, listen, if you start making a bunch of fucking sequels, you're going to be right back where you were before you made this movie, because you can only make so many until the novelty wears off and shit becomes stale and the weird and sensational creep into the narratives because you have to justify why this 60, 70-year-old Myers is still going. Maybe they were like, one and done. We got in, we made our money, we got out. And then people are like, yeah, but Michael wasn't there in the fire. And so what? You don't need to know. He's just, who knows? God damn it. Why do we live in a world where everything needs to be laid out for us? Yeah, but Dave. I don't have my glasses on. I keep doing that. I don't have my glasses on. But Dave. Maybe we don't need it. I think if you were to ask me, I still think it's over 50% that they probably will do a sequel. But I don't think it's that much over 50%. I think it's under 75% that you're going to see a sequel to the 2018 film. Not necessarily, they still could do it, but I don't think it's a locked deal. I really don't. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Let me see here. Scroll up, see if I can get some people that I haven't got yet. The Smokey says, I think Steven Spielberg's best movie is E.T. You wouldn't be alone in that. It was a great movie. It could be his best. When you factor in everything, you factor in the score, you factor in the message, you factor in the performances. You factor in how it embedded itself into the pop culture, became one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Actually, I think it might have been the highest domestically at that time. Anyway, it could be his greatest achievement. And it's still a great movie today. But then again, he's done other great movies as well. Jurassic Park, Close Encounters, Ready Player. If I've said this before, if Ready Player One had come out 25 years ago or 30 years ago, it would be an instant. We'd be talking about that movie today like we do E.T. It's just that it got bombarded with every other fucking blockbuster that comes out now. He still got it, but certainly he's the greatest filmmaker who's ever lived. Not because he's always had the greatest movies. He's had some stinkers, as everybody has, but he changed the way we watched entertainment. He changed the way we consumed media. He changed the way, along with Lucas, of course, too. Can't forget him. The way movies were made. So, I mean, without him, we wouldn't have a lot of the things we do have. Okay, let's see here. Charty_Dark says, "Hey Dave, are you feeling well tonight? You sound different." No, I feel fine. My voice is probably just feeling a little crackly because I've been talking for almost 2 hours, right? And when you talk nonstop for 2 hours, it's not like I have a co-host here to sort of take a bit of the pressure off, right? I'm talking for 2 hours. Sometimes you can sound a little, and my water bottle's all fucking, god damn it. So, yeah, sometimes that happens. Let's see here. Let me see. Maybe I can, well, it's almost time to call it quits anyway. Cody Martin, great question, but tough to answer. What's your top 5 favorite movies? That's tough, man. That's tough. That's really tough. Really tough. Liam Hatt says, thoughts on Freddy versus Jason? Couldn't care less about it. Oh, Jaws too? Yeah, Jaws. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jaws. I forgot about Jaws. I mean, Jaws, of course. Jaws is arguably Spielberg's greatest film too. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can make an argument for that. I think E.T. might be a bit higher. I'm not saying it's a better movie than Jaws. I'm saying that everything E.T. sort of has going for it. You know, the emotion and the human condition and the spirit and the love and the loss and the friendship and the family and the score and the message. Do you know what I mean? The bigger picture message, right? But Jaws is probably my favorite Spielberg movie. You see, that's the great thing about looking at things objectively is you can say this is my favorite movie, but you can also acknowledge it's not necessarily the best movie. Like I've often said, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, but I don't think it's the best Indiana Jones movie. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best Indiana Jones movie. You know, what is the best and what is your favorite isn't necessarily mutually exclusive to each other. It doesn't have to be, right? Let's see here. Vega Courier says, I think Dr. Sartain's downfall was he kept trying to get a reaction out of Michael instead of keeping him locked up and wouldn't accept or believe Michael was nothing but evil like Loomis did. I actually like that about Sartain. And I think Sartain should have gone to the house. I think he just should have ended up at the house. And if he was going to die, maybe he was killed off the balcony. Right? Like maybe he was stabbed and he takes a giant leap and he falls off the balcony or something and falls or what. I don't know. The whole twist, it just felt contrived, synthetic, convoluted. And then as quickly as they introduced the twist, they told you to forget about it. And it's just like, you know, it didn't feel organic. I like the Sartain character. I like that he was the opposite of Loomis. I think you needed that. I like that he was bringing some science and psychology into the mix. I like that. I don't think he was the problem. It's how the character was handled and sort of shoehorned in at the end to kind of have this weird twist, and then him putting the Myers mask on and then putting Michael in the back seat without his mask on. It was like, nah. Womp, 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 womp. It just didn't work for me. If I was directing the movie, I would have kept Sartain. I wouldn't have necessarily had that character. But if I had to have that character, I would have handled him differently. And I would have found out another way to get him, or just have him drive Myers to... I wouldn't have had Myers in the backseat unmasked. I wouldn't have had that. But if I had to have that, I would have just had Sartain drive him all the way there. You know, and then you can have Sartain meet his demise there at the house or something. I don't know. But the whole idea of him killing the cop and Hawkins was one of the only likable characters in that movie, aside from Laurie. Let's be honest. Let's be fucking honest here. Let's be honest. Hawkins was one of the only likable characters in that movie that you could see yourself getting emotionally attached to in a sequel. That's not to say that you couldn't with Allison, but Allison, come on. She was pretty much underdeveloped. Okay? Karen, fucking annoying as hell. Love Judy Greer. Come on. Right? You know, Ray, peanut butter on my penis. Come on. Right? Lori, that's a given because we have a history with her. We're going to be emotionally attached to her regardless. Okay? So for Sartain to kill Hawkins, it was like Hawkins should have been the sheriff. Because if you are going to do a sequel, that's somebody you could have in another movie. And even though we don't ever see this, according to this new timeline, he was the first officer on scene to arrest Michael Myers. Okay, that's somebody you keep around. That's somebody you keep around. So I would have just tried to figure out something about getting Hawkins and Sartain there, or they go to the house because they think Michael's going to be there, but Michael just shows up. Just have fucking Michael show up. You don't need to figure out how he shows up. He just fucking shows up. He walks through the woods and he shows up. He chases Allison. Allison goes into the woods. Michael chases Allison. Allison ends up at the house and Michael follows Allison to the house. There you go. Bang. You don't need the whole fucking scene with Sartain killing Hawkins and putting on the mask. There you go. I just fucking solved it. Oh, fuck. Anyway, the Halloween franchise fan says, what do you think of Stanley Kubrick? Love Stanley Kubrick. Love him. Very difficult director to work with. I have learned, obviously, over the years, his attention to detail and understanding the subconscious from a psychological perspective and adding layers to his movies makes him one of the greatest filmmakers who has ever lived. You cannot watch a Stanley Kubrick film and there are so many ways to analyze a Kubrick film and the meaning for those movies. And that's not hyperbole. That's not people... Look, can you overdo it? Of course you can. But Stanley Kubrick understood so many different facets of tapping into the psyche of individuals and the subconscious of people that there are many layers to his movies. And there's a lot of things that, like, everything you see, if something seems out of place, it's not a mistake. If something's there in the background that's a little strange, it's on purpose. You know, I mean, Kubrick would do take after take after take after take, and he was meticulous for detail. And which is why I love watching his movies, whether it's, you know, Barry Lyndon, whether it's The Shining, whether it's Lolita, whether it's, you know, Eyes Wide Shut, whether it's Full Metal Jacket, whether it's Dr. Zhivago, right? I think that was it. Or Dr. Zhivago? It's Dr. Zhivago? Is that the one? Dr. Zhivago? I think that's the one. Anyway, whatever Dr. one it was there. Yes, A Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I mean, come on. You know, I think a lot of people, I think there are answers. He does give answers. I think some people like to can live in a perpetual state shrouded in mystery when it comes to Kubrick films. But I think he was the type of filmmaker that he knew the answers to the ambiguous things he was putting in there. All good filmmakers do. Just because something is ambiguous to the audience doesn't mean that it's ambiguous to the filmmaker. They have an answer. Like at the end of Inception, when you have the spinning top, right? And you're like, oh my God, is it gonna fall? And then it cuts to black before you can find out. I guarantee you Nolan has an answer. I guarantee you Nolan knows whether it was a dream or not, but he leaves it up to you to figure it out. So great filmmakers understand those things because you can't leave something ambiguous unless you're ahead. You have to be ahead of your audience. You're not your audience. You can't be on the same level as your audience. You have to be ahead of your audience because you're the storyteller. You are in control of the information you give out, when, how, and where. And Kubrick was brilliant at that. And, I just love analyzing his films, and I want to do an analytical breakdown of The Shining on this channel, but I want to give it justice, and it's something that just takes time, you know? Great question. Dr. Strangelove, thank you. Dr. Zhivago. I don't know why I said that one. Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. Appreciate it. Jim D says, mainstream movies aren't ambiguous anymore. I miss movies like that. Yeah, I do too, man. I do. I mean, listen, there's ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous, and that doesn't really jive with anybody. But there's nothing wrong with creating stories that leave it up to the audience, as long as it feels right. It feels organic. It feels appropriate. It's not like, come on, right? Because everything else has to feel fulfilled. All the characters have to feel, have to be developed. All the message of the movie has to be quite apparent. Okay, even though you might be able to get a few different things from it, the entire movie can't be ambiguous, but an ending can. Because especially when it's a bigger picture ending, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, what does it mean? What is the room that Dave is in, right? Oh, what does the monolith mean? What does it represent? There's so many theories. Kubrick knows. The correct theory is out there, but a lot of people like to try and figure out things and all that kind of stuff. And the child, in the bubble, looking over the, Earth, and what does it mean? And it means it's about reincarnation. It's about coming back. No, it's not about that. It's about this, or it's about. But Kubrick had an answer, and you can actually find that answer online, I believe. But brilliant filmmakers tell stories, but are not afraid to say, what do you think? And I love that shit. And unfortunately, as you just said, they're very far and few between now. And it really sucks. Guillermo Medina. Guillermo Medina. Hey, Guillermo. Hey, Dave, just saying hello. Hey, buddy. Nice to see you. Thanks for checking in. Let's see here. James Grimm. Will Saturday movie night ever have Halloween 5 or Resurrection? Well, like I said earlier in the stream, James, I have yet to put Halloween 5 or Resurrection on the voting list for level number 3, because I just figure that it's kind of unfair, because I think people are going to clearly choose that one. So what will probably happen is I will probably just do it. You know what I mean? I'll just do a Saturday movie night where maybe it'll be open for everybody and it'll be Halloween 5. You know what I mean? Maybe around Halloween time or something. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's see here. There was a super chat. I missed super chat. Aaron Keller. Thank you, Aaron. Much appreciated. Come to Screamers this year, Dave. I play Freddy. Yes, that's right. You do. Now, where is this Screamers? Is it the one in Niagara Falls? Is it the one, where is that one? Let me know. The Halloween franchise fan says, what do you think of Quentin Tarantino? I've answered this many times before. He's hit and miss for me. I find his personality a little off-putting. He's a little too eccentric and artsy-fartsy and a little too high maintenance for me in terms of his personality. But certainly there's been a few films that I've quite enjoyed that he's done, and there's been films that I just couldn't care about. So I'm kind of like, I don't love him, but I don't hate him. Jeff Jenkins says, Vertigo is definitely the best Hitchcock film, but then you also have North by Northwest and Rear Window. Yeah, Rear Window is my favorite Hitchcock film as of now, but I got to watch Vertigo again. I haven't seen it in years. And North by Northwest, yeah, is good too. There's a lot of good movies. I love his, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. That was a lot of fun. 1980s, when they sort of took a lot of his, the old shit that he was doing and repackaged it for the 80s, was always cool too. Let's see here. We'll go for another, we'll go a little bit longer. I did start a little bit late today because I was on the phone to my agent. So of course that I had to talk to them about something. So we did start a bit later. Let's see here. It's at the C&E. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I didn't know they had a, well, I guess that makes sense, right? Yeah. All right. Well, if I remember, definitely I will do that. Yeah. And I'll be on here in the time. So don't be afraid to send me, a reminder. That'll be fun. Playing Freddy Krueger. That's great. So you must have like an ongoing contract then with them. So you're like their go-to Freddy, like, Aaron, we got a thing coming up. We'll just go to Aaron. I think that's awesome. 17 years now. That's great. That's awesome shit. Brandon B says, how would you have ended Halloween 2018? How would I have ended Halloween 2018? I would have ended it with Laurie dying in the fire with him. Yeah, I understand why they didn't, but I would have had the balls and I would have pulled the trigger because it means something. It means more. Laurie Strode sacrifices herself to save her family, okay? And she dies in the fire with Michael Myers because then that gives the emotional bottom and weight to the movie that it desperately needed. Because nobody gives a fuck about Karen right now. Nobody gives a fuck about Allison right now. I'm not saying that they're not cute. Yeah, they're cute women. Sure. They're easy on the eyes. Who doesn't want to sit for an hour and a half and watch them? Okay, fine. But what we're talking about, their characters. Okay? I don't care. I don't care because I don't have a history with them. Okay? So I understand why they didn't kill Laurie. I get it. But if you did that would have been epic. And it might have made us a little bit more emotionally attached to Karen and Allison because we're watching Karen and Allison watch their mother die. They're watching their mother die in the fire, saving them from the boogeyman that has haunted her, their grandmother, their mother and grandmother, her entire life. Whoa. Whoa. Think about that. I mean, that's like, that gives it the emotional bottom and the weight that movie needed. I know why they didn't do it. But if I was the executive, I might have been like, I'll do it. Or shoot it. Shoot it. Shoot it. And then we'll see how we feel. Just shoot it. Spend an extra night and shoot it. Because I think that would have been unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. I mean, man, that would have been great. Sorry, they've been going for 27 years. This will be my 6th year. Oh, I see what you're saying. 6 years. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Screamers. I've been to the Screamers in Niagara Falls when I was in college because I went to Niagara College. So this is going back over 20 years. I haven't been to a Screamers in a long time. I always wanted to when I was in college and I went to the Screamers, and for those of you that don't know what Aaron and I are talking about, it's like a haunted house kind of thing that you go through in the dark, but people have see in the dark, goggles on and they can see you, but you can't see them. So they can come up to you and touch you and all that kind of shit. Anyway, I don't know if the one at the X is like that, but the one in the Falls was. And I loved it so much, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be somebody with the goggles and going around and doing shit and fucking tearing shit up. Yeah! Would have been a lot of fun. And if I had stuck around in the summer, I might have done that, but I went back to Ottawa. Let's see here. ACDC 113089 says, what are your thoughts on Rami Malek potentially playing the villain in the next Bond film? Sure. He's not really physically intimidating. He doesn't really have a presence. And you don't have to be like, The Rock to have a presence. I mean, I just mean he doesn't really have a presence. But that doesn't mean he wouldn't make a great villain. So we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Why not? The Artisan says, even if she did die as a result of the original ending, the knife fight with Michael in the front of her property, she could have sustained a fatal wound and bled out in the arms of Karen. Yeah, she could have, but I think it would have meant more if she died in the fire with Michael Myers. Because I think that would have brought it home. It's a nice round, like they both actually die in the fire. I don't mean like they actually die. And I think that would have, because it brings it home. It brings everything home. And I think that would have been yes, that could have happened where she dies in the arms of her daughter. Okay. But then Michael's still out there. I think it would have meant more to watch because it's always been Laurie and Michael, right? It's like Rocky and Adrian. That's why really the greatest ending to the Rocky franchise really is Rocky Balboa. It's not Creed, obviously, he's got cancer. And although Creed 2 is nice and he goes home to his son, okay, I can live with that. I think the end to Rocky Balboa is stronger because it's always been, because you don't need him going home to his son because him and his son sort of made up in Rocky Balboa anyway, right? They eventually got back together to get along because he showed up to be at the ringside for his dad's fight. So you don't need the end of Creed 2. It's always been Rocky and Adrian. It began with Rocky and Adrian, and it should have ended with Rocky and Adrian. And that's why when he's there at her grave and he says, well, Adrian, we did it. Remember that? Remember in the early film when he won the championship? Or was it at the beginning? I can't remember if it was at the end of the first Rocky or the second Rocky where he's like, yo, Adrian, we did it. It's always been about Rocky and Adrian. So that's why I think that ending Halloween 2018 like that would have been really cool, because it's a different kind of thing, but it's always been about Laurie and Michael. And in terms of Halloween, the series, the pop culture consciousness, even when it wasn't about Laurie and Michael, it was, because the fans love those movies the best. You know what I mean? And even I think H2O really is a pile of shit, but a lot of people really like it. Laurie and Michael, right? You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to, even though you're pretending a lot of those didn't happen, you bring it full circle, you end it with Laurie and Michael, and there you go. And that's what I would have done. Okay, let's see here. Let me go back. Blu-ray Addict says, thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Love the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Never saw the second one. Saw the third one. Oh, and I saw the remake from 2003 or 4, the one with Jessica Biel. Thought that was all right. That was a decent, as far as remakes go, that's probably one of the best horror remakes of all time. But other than that, I don't care much for it, really. I'm not crazy on it or anything. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we'll go to 9:30. We'll go to 9:30, and then we will call it a day, ladies and germs. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Sometimes I like to do these live streams and talk to you guys and see how you guys are doing. So I do appreciate it. Oh, I think I froze. Don't worry, I'll be back. Am I on? I think I'm on. I'm on. All right, I'm back. Sometimes those things happen. When you're doing a live stream, sometimes you just... Wait a minute. There we go. There we go. When you're doing a live stream, sometimes these things happen. Brandon Gregory, thank you for the super chat, Brandon. Appreciate it. Dave is a sexual man. A sexual man. Dave is a sexual man. And Brandon Gregory just paid $2 to say that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if that says more about me or more about Brandon Gregory. Good night, everybody. Thanks for the super chat, Brandon. Appreciate it. DJ Max says, hey, Dave, would you write your own film one day? Oh, well, yeah, I've written a lot of short films, actually, and I am in the process right now of polishing up a major motion picture feature-length screenplay, which I've talked about a little bit on this channel, that's based on true events from my second year of college, 20 years ago or so. And it deals in the supernatural, paranormal sort of genre, although it's not a horror movie per se. When I have more information to give, you will know more about it. But absolutely, yep. And it's a major feature that I want to make. Let's see. And of course, if anybody ever wants to hire me to shoot their film, I'll be happy to do it. Of course, you have to remember that you got to hire somebody to shoot it. And sometimes that takes money. It always takes money. Noah Smith says, Dave, have you ever seen Roller Coaster? It's a movie, I guess. No, I haven't. I've been on roller coasters, but I've never seen a movie called Roller Coaster. Mark Warling says, hey, Dave, saw your latest short film as Michael Myers. Good stuff. Love the choice of music you used in the short. Appreciate it. Was that the Boogeyman you're talking about? Or the one I did with Bruce called Haddonfield Reaper? For those of you that might be interested, that maybe haven't seen it, there's 2 Halloween shorts on my channel right now that I've done in the last 6 months. One is called The Boogeyman, which you can check out on my channel. and the other is called Haddonfield Reaper. And I shot that entire movie on my Galaxy S9 Plus. And I shot it with my buddy Bruce, who also works in the film industry here in Toronto. And we shot it using my phone and a couple of gimbals. And so if you haven't checked that out and you want to check it out, go to my channel and just type in Haddonfield, or go to my main channel and scroll down to the playlist of Halloween fan films, and you should see it there. So there's The Boogeyman and there's Haddonfield Reaper, if you guys haven't checked them out. Most of you probably have, but some of you might not have. So check them out if you want. I think you'll like them. Let's see here. The Boogeyman short, it was great. Haven't seen the other one. I will. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, The Boogeyman was just to showcase that awesome mask up there that Chris Baber sent me a couple of months back. And that's not a Tots mask, guys. That's an independent. I think there were only like 12 of those made, but it's a beauty. Just watch the Boogeyman Halloween short film on my channel if you haven't yet, and watch how I showcased that mask. I think most of you guys will probably be orgasming in your pants. Anyway, so Jessica Kindle says, how do you feel about the latest Godzilla trailer? Love it, Jessica. Love it. Thank you for your question. I love it. I'm a big fan of Godzilla, and I just am really excited because although there were certain things about the 2014 film I did like, as a whole, I thought it fell flat. And a big part of that was because they were keeping Godzilla at bay and they were, doing the Jaws effect, right? Keeping but the characters weren't interesting enough to carry the rest of the story for me. So I was kind of bored. The Godzilla shit was great, but when he wasn't on screen, I couldn't get into it. So when I look at this movie, I'm like, oh my God, it just looks like a typical wild, blockbuster, awesome popcorn movie that I am thoroughly going to enjoy. And I believe it comes out in and around my birthday. My birthday is the 24th of May, and I think it comes out in and around there. Somewhere around there. Anyway, thank you for the question, Jessica. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Blu-ray Addict says, dude, why would you spoil that? Somebody's spoiling something? I don't know who you're talking to, but somebody might have been spoiling something. I don't know. Yeah, if anybody comes into the chat room or anybody comes on my channel and wants to spoil anything, then, I see what you're saying. I see. Might be a spoiler, might not be. Yeah, I don't know who that person is, but obviously, yeah, what a... Oh, I see. Yeah, sometimes that can happen. Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll up and, I'll just remove that. Just remove it, just in case it is. It may not be, folks. For those, I won't repeat it. For those of you that did see that, it might not be. It might just be him just being a dick. Obviously, when you go to his channel, there's nothing there. It's just another troll that's gotten on me. Yeah! Look at me! I got power behind a keyboard! When in reality, they're just fucking douchebags. That's what they are. Frank Riker says, thank you for the super chat, Frank. Appreciate it. Dave, can you do a Nick Cage Wicker Man impression with the bees? Oh, God. I haven't even seen Nick Cage's Wicker Man, so I probably not. I'd have to watch it. Let's see here. Okay. There I am. Sometimes windows pop up. I got so many windows up here. Oliver Mercer says, so how much would it be to hire you to help film a film? Because I have written a short myself. Well, you have to take a lot into consideration. I live in Toronto, and depending on where you live, you have to factor that in, right? Money has to be, you have to pay for my expenses. You have to pay what it would cost for me to shoot the movie. Is it a short film? Is it a feature film? There has to, usually when you have, you have your film done, you come up with a production package, which would include your budget, right? And then you have to figure out how much is it going to cost to shoot this movie. I have to hire actors. I have to hire a director. I have to hire equipment. I have to, what do I want to shoot it on? All that kind of jazz, right? As a professional that works in the industry, I'm not somebody that does things generally pro bono, especially, no offense, but I don't know you, right? So, you have to factor in all those things where if you want to hire a director, not even me, but if you want to hire somebody who works in the industry, you pay for their travel, you pay for their accommodations, you pay for you pay for everything. They're not paying anything because you've hired them to do a job, but that's all worked into your budget. That isn't necessarily coming out of your pocket. That you could do a Kickstarter campaign where you raise $100,000 because you have done up a budget that it's going to cost you $100,000 to shoot the movie. And that $100,000 factors in all the salaries of the actors, all the salaries of the director and the filmmaker and all that kind of stuff. It would depend very much on the type of movie it is, how long the shoot is, right? That's when you come up with a shooting schedule. It's a whole, it's not just a matter of, hey, I've written a script, I have a movie, you want to shoot it how much you want. You can find all this information online as well. But there's a lot of factors that go into hiring somebody who works in the industry on a professional level. So you have to keep that in mind. And you also have to keep in mind as well is that if you're non-union, you obviously there are people who are part of the union, right? And a union actor can't do non-union work. So it's a whole thing. I should probably do a video where I talk about that. But to answer your question, what would it cost to hire me to shoot a movie? I don't know, because it's all dependent on a number of factors. Okay. But if you've written a script, I think that's awesome. And because that's the first thing. You can't make a movie without a script, and a story is the most important thing about any movie, and you're doing it. So first things first, that's awesome. Super chat from K316 says, Dave, please do an imitation of Columbo. Columbo. Oh my God. How did Peter Falk do it? Right. He was kind of like, had this eye. He's like, excuse me. One more thing. One last thing. He's kind of like that, right? I think that's kind of in the ballpark. I'd have to work on my Columbo in terms of my voice, but I think he was kind of like this a lot, right? It's kind of like that, kind of like a weird eye going up or something like that. I haven't watched Columbo in so long. Oh man, that's funny though. Yeah, Columbo. One last thing. Okay. Nick, gonna watch Dr. Sleep this Halloween, Dave. It's the sequel to The Shining. Yes, I'm definitely gonna watch Dr. Sleep, but you have to keep in mind that The Shining is very different from the book, and Stephen King and Kubrick. Yeah. So this sequel is probably going to be very faithful to the book. And although they're going to allude to maybe a few things that happened in The Shining, I suspect that this Dr. Sleep is not going to rely heavily on any continuity that was very Stanley Kubrick Shining specific. Do you know what I mean? I think it will be very vague. Like, they'll talk about the hotel. They'll probably mention the hotel. You might see a picture of it, but that's just like the book as well, right? So I just don't think you're going to get a lot of fan service, not that you need it, from the original Shining, the movie, because in this new Dr. Sleep, because I think this Dr. Sleep is very much focused on the book. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to transpire. Very curious about that. Very curious. Brandon Gregory says, Dave, have you seen Game Night? I just watched it for the first time last night and laughed my ass off. I have. I love that movie. I actually went to the theater with my girlfriend to see that, and we really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was just, one of those movies you're like, I don't know, what do you want to do? You want to go see a movie? Yeah, let's go see a movie. So we went and saw Game Night, and it was fun. Jason Bateman certainly is playing the typical Jason Bateman role. He's pretty much always the stiff, straight edge guy who always gets himself into awkward, uncomfortable situations. That's just usually who he is. But it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie. And Rachel McAdams, folks. Good Canadian girl. Ethan LeBlanc, thanks for the super chat, Ethan. Much appreciated. What did you think of Darth Maul's return? You're obviously talking about Solo. Very cool. I'm sad that Solo will probably not get a sequel because I thought Solo was, I enjoyed Solo better than The Last Jedi. And I have to admit, I enjoyed it better than Rogue One. I don't think Solo's a great movie. It's obviously unnecessary. I know that, but just because something's unnecessary doesn't mean that it wasn't good. It's 100% unnecessary. There was no reason for a Solo movie at all. But it was not a train wreck. It was fine. It was good. It was very entertaining. And I thought Alden Ehrenreich, that's his name, right, did a wonderful Han Solo. He made it his own, but he brought the essence of Han Solo to the character. And I asked myself, do I buy that that is Han Solo 10 years before A New Hope? And the answer was yes. I enjoyed the movie enough that when they set it up for a potential sequel, I was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'd be down. Sure. Kind of sucks they're not going to do it. But I understand why. Here's the shitty thing. The only reason why Solo didn't make money is not just because people were pissed off from The Last Jedi and didn't go watch it. It's because it cost over $300 million to make. They essentially shot the movie twice. It's not a Solo is not a $300 million movie. It's not. It's a $150 million movie. But they shot the movie twice, essentially. So it turned into a $300 million movie, and they were behind the eight ball from the very beginning. So, what are you going to do? Okay, we'll take a couple more questions here. A couple more. But I was excited for his return, and I was excited to see where it was going to go, right? I mean, yeah, that's the whole point that, I was trying to make. Thanks for the super chat, Ethan. Much appreciated. Dude says Jaws TV series, Amity as the title, yay or nay? Nay. Because I just don't see how you string a series of a killer shark like a mini series? A series with seasons? Really? I mean, it just seems a little like you're going to have to fill a lot of shit, a lot of exposition, and a lot of shit in there to fill an entire season, unless it's not about Jaws, unless Jaws is part of it, but it also includes the Amityville Horror or includes made up stories, right? About shit going, and Jaws is like Jaws is the first season, right? And Amity, but an entire, 5 seasons and 45, 50 episodes of Jaws? No, I just don't think there's enough material there, personally. All right, we'll take 2 more questions, ladies and germs. 2 more questions here on this live stream, April the 24th, 2019. All you guys are awesome. You know who you are. Thank you for tuning in every time I upload a video and supporting the channel via just watching, asking questions, or with your super chats. It's always appreciated. I think you guys are awesome. Luke Glanton says, hey, Dave, are you a fan of Unbreakable? Yes, I am. I wasn't a fan of Unbreakable the first time I watched it nearly 20 years ago. I was like, it's okay. I watched it recently again a couple of years ago, and I enjoyed it much better the second time. I think because I was older, and I think because there was the distance away from The Sixth Sense, right? Because, it was his follow-up to The Sixth Sense, and it was the complete opposite of what The Sixth Sense was. There was a lot of expectations. People were like, what? And now that I'm sort of emotionally removed from that, I can look at it a little more objectively, and I actually quite enjoy Unbreakable for what it is. And I haven't seen Glass yet, but I hear mixed things. Movie chat and more. Okay, this will be the final question of the night, ladies and gentlemen. I got to take it from movie chat and more because this is really good. The Game or Seven? Woo! Both directed by David Fincher, by the way. Oh, man. Oh, fuck, that's tough. That is tough. Woo! Man, you know, I think Seven is the better movie, but The Game is so good too. Oh, I don't know if I can answer that. That is so good. The Game's really good, but Seven is really good too. Woo! That's, I don't know. It's tough. It might be dependent on how I'm feeling, because they're very different, but they also have very surprise endings. I'm going to say Seven is probably the better movie. But man, we're talking like neck and neck, like the horse races. You know the horse races, like, you know this? First, second, first, second, first, second. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. Like, it's literally that kind of thing. Brandon Gregory, Zodiac. Yeah, Zodiac is a great, underrated David Fincher movie. If you guys haven't checked out Zodiac and you're familiar with the Zodiac story, check out that movie. One of the most underrated films out there. Certainly one of his most underrated films. Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo. Just fucking watch it. It's great. Great. And Tony and I are probably going to tackle that on a future episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. So look out for that. Also, this Sunday night, Two Dudes and Some Bullshit returns for episode, 20 now or something? Tony and I will be talking about Cobra Kai. So if you're a Cobra Kai fan, you may want to tune into this Sunday night's episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. And Tony will be sort of taking the reins on this because he knows a lot more about it than me. I'm playing a bit of catch up, but hopefully I'll be able to compete. But we're definitely going to be talking about Cobra Kai this Sunday night on, I believe it's episode 20 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this YouTube channel. For everybody else, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the super chats. I think you guys are awesome. That will do it for me. I will be back with some more videos. It just was crazy after the Easter weekend there, the voiceover, jumping right back into it, just crazy busy, but I'm hoping to get some videos up, hopefully before Sunday, at least one anyway, but we'll see how it goes. So, don't forget, if you want to follow me on Twitter and Facebook, the links are in the description. And I'll talk to you guys soon. In the meantime and in between time, have a great night, everybody. I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.